Hello, miladies of inestimable value. Some souls aren't meant to be tamed. They're meant to be understood. Sigma females are a force most men can't even begin to decode. Studies show that less than 5% of men ever truly understand the depth, independence, and unpredictability of a woman who walks her own path. And when a man falls for a Sigma female, everything changes, subtly, profoundly, and sometimes insanely. He doesn't chase, he doesn't beg. He recalibrates his entire existence around her presence, often without even realizing it. The way he thinks, the way he moves, the quiet strategies he employs, all shift like tectonic plates in a world ruled by her gravity. It's not just love, it's a mental and emotional overhaul, a silent war between desire, respect, and awe. And yet beneath this intense, almost surgical devotion, there's humor, irony, and absurdity too. He'll strategize for hours on how to impress her while secretly panicking over what to order for dinner, as if a Sigma female's approval could be contained in a menu. This isn't ordinary love. This is love that transforms men into versions of themselves they didn't know existed just by the pull of her enigmatic presence. Brace yourself. It's about to get extraordinary. Number 1. They mirror her intensity, unconsciously. When a man falls for a Sigma female, he doesn't just notice her energy, he absorbs it. It's not something he consciously decides to do. It happens naturally, almost instinctively. Her focus, her drive, her ability to move through the world on her own terms, it begins to shape him. He starts operating at her wavelength, thinking faster, observing deeper, and reacting sharper. He begins to match her intensity in ways even he might not fully understand. Every gesture, every subtle expression of hers becomes a cue he internalizes. Her quiet confidence makes him sit straighter, speak with more precision, and carry himself with a new gravity he never had before. Her patience teaches him patience. Her detachment teaches him restraint. The effect isn't forced mimicry. It's a quiet synchronization of minds. He feels compelled to rise to her level because her presence naturally pulls him upward. This mirroring isn't just mental or emotional. It seeps into his actions. If she's meticulous, he becomes meticulous. If she's fiercely independent, he becomes more self-sufficient. He starts noticing things he never did. The way she studies a room, the way she prioritizes her time, even the subtle pauses she takes when considering her words. Without trying, he adapts, almost as if his brain rewires itself to anticipate her rhythm and patterns. What makes this process extraordinary is how unconscious it is. He isn't doing it to impress her or win her over. He's doing it because her energy is magnetic, and resisting it would feel unnatural. The intensity she carries demands a certain level of awareness and alignment. To be close to her, he must mirror it, and in the process, he becomes sharper, more perceptive, and more attuned to the world in ways he never imagined. By the time he even realizes it, he's changed. He isn't the same man he was before he encountered her. Her intensity has seeped into his bones, and he moves through life with a new edge, a new focus, and an awareness that didn't exist until she entered his orbit. In loving a Sigma female, he doesn't just fall for her, he evolves because of her. Number 2. They respect her silence more than her explanations. A man in love with a Sigma female quickly learns that words are only a fraction of who she is. When she retreats, when she withdraws into her own world, he doesn't panic or push. He doesn't demand explanations, because he knows that the silence carries far more meaning than any words could convey. He understands that a Sigma female doesn't owe him her thoughts or feelings, and that trying to force them would only break the delicate balance of their connection. Her silence becomes a language he studies instinctively. A pause, a glance, or even a subtle shift in her posture speaks volumes. He learns to interpret the quiet as a reflection of her state, her mood, or her needs. The absence of words is not emptiness, it's information, rich and layered, and he becomes attuned to it in ways most men can't even imagine. He notices how she folds her hands when she's thinking, how her eyes drift when she's weighing her options, or how she distances herself when she needs space. Every small signal tells him more than 1,000 conversations ever could. He respects this space because he knows that trying to fill it with noise, reassurance, or validation would feel suffocating to her. Instead, he embraces the silence and adapts, letting her lead the rhythm of the interaction. His patience is not passive. It's a quiet, deliberate engagement. He observes, adjusts, and responds only when appropriate, maintaining a presence that is both attentive and unobtrusive. What makes this devotion extraordinary is the level of self-discipline it requires. Most men would panic, overthink, or try to control the situation. A man in love with a Sigma female does the opposite. He trusts her, he trusts the process, and he honors her autonomy. His respect for her silence becomes a reflection of his understanding, his intelligence, and his commitment. By valuing what she doesn't say more than what she does, he aligns himself with the essence of her being. He realizes that love for a Sigma female is less about possession and more about reverence, less about answers and more about presence, and ultimately less about controlling her world and more about moving seamlessly within it. Number 3, they willingly inhabit discomfort. Loving a Sigma female is not a journey for the faint-hearted. A man drawn to her quickly learns that comfort is a fleeting concept, and he must become comfortable with discomfort. She doesn't operate in the predictable patterns of ordinary women, and she doesn't tolerate ordinary love. Her presence demands emotional flexibility, mental sharpness, and the willingness to step into spaces that feel unfamiliar, tense, or even challenging. He doesn't resist it. Instead, he embraces the unease as part of the process. Discomfort becomes a training ground, a place where he sharpens his patience, hones his intuition, and discovers depths of himself that were dormant before she arrived. Every unpredictable decision she makes, every moment she pulls back, every intensity in her gaze, he absorbs it without complaint. He learns to move in a world where rules are undefined and expectations are ever shifting, and in doing so, he grows in ways he never anticipated. This isn't about enduring hardship for the sake of love. It's about recognizing that the challenge itself is part of her essence. The Sigma female thrives in her autonomy, in her unpredictability, and in her refusal to conform. Loving her means participating in her world on her terms, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it stretches him beyond familiar limits. It requires a quiet courage and a willingness to confront his own insecurities without projecting them onto her. The most extraordinary aspect of this is how naturally it happens. He doesn't frame it as sacrifice, he frames it as evolution. Each uncomfortable moment becomes a mirror reflecting his own resilience, adaptability, and capacity to love in a profound, unconventional way. He begins to see the discomfort not as a threat to his stability, but as a gateway to deeper connection and understanding. In this way, inhabiting discomfort isn't just a trait. It becomes a lifestyle, a discipline, and a testament to his commitment. Loving a Sigma female transforms him, forcing him to operate on a higher plane of emotional and intellectual engagement, where ease is rare, tension is instructive, and growth is inevitable. By willingly stepping into that discomfort, he demonstrates a devotion that transcends ordinary love and enters the realm of the extraordinary. Number 4, they secretly cultivate an inner world. She can't touch a man in love with a Sigma female knows that even devotion has boundaries. No matter how much he cares, he understands that a part of him must remain untouchable, sacred, and utterly his own. This isn't about playing games or hiding. It's about preserving the depth, mystery, and complexity that drew her in the first place. He cultivates an inner world, a private sanctuary of thoughts, ambitions, and obsessions that she will never fully access because intimacy with a Sigma female doesn't mean losing oneself. This inner world becomes a vital part of his identity. It's where he processes emotions, refines his vision, and explores the parts of himself that are too raw or chaotic for the outside world. He might dive into books, music, philosophies, or unconventional pursuits that feel unnecessary to explain. In loving her, he understands that complete transparency would strip the relationship of its magnetic tension. The intrigue, the subtle pull, the unspoken layers, these thrive precisely because he maintains this private realm. Interestingly, this doesn't create distance, it enhances connection. By guarding a piece of his soul, he elevates the relationship beyond ordinary attachment. She senses the depth, even if she can't map it, and that awareness reinforces her respect, curiosity, and fascination. It becomes a silent dance of proximity and space, of shared energy and protected individuality. His inner world is a testament to the fact that loving a Sigma female isn't about possession. It's about harmonizing two complex energies without one consuming the other. The cultivation of this private space also sharpens him. He learns to manage thoughts and emotions independently, to extract strength from solitude, and to engage with the world with a quiet, compelling intensity. Every choice, every gesture, every word is informed by a balance between openness and mystery. In the end, the man who loves a Sigma female doesn't just reveal himself, he becomes the kind of presence that can coexist with hers without losing integrity. By secretly maintaining an inner world she can't touch, he demonstrates that true love isn't about transparency or control. It's about respect, self-mastery, and creating a connection that's profound, rare, and undeniably magnetic. Number 5. They obsess over long-term alignment, not short-term satisfaction. When a man falls for a Sigma female, his focus shifts from fleeting pleasures to enduring compatibility. He's not interested in shallow wins or temporary approval. What matters to him is how their lives, values, and ambitions align over the long haul. He measures everything, words, actions, energy, through the lens of sustainability. Each choice he makes, each effort he puts forth, is filtered through a vision of a future that feels substantial, stable, and meaningful. This obsession with alignment doesn't look flashy. He won't constantly shower her with gifts or chase her attention for the sake of immediate gratification. Instead, he quietly observes, adapts, and invests in areas that truly matter. He notices how she reacts under pressure, how she handles challenges, and how she navigates her own independence. Every interaction becomes data, not in a clinical sense, but as a way to understand if their energies and life paths are genuinely compatible. What makes this extraordinary is the patience it demands. A Sigma female doesn't rush into attachment, and a man who truly loves her knows that forcing closeness or seeking instant validation would be counterproductive. He plays the long game, sometimes silently sacrificing short-term rewards, in favor of building a foundation that can withstand the intensity, unpredictability, and freedom that define her. This focus on long-term alignment transforms his mindset. He evaluates himself too, examining his ambitions, habits, and boundaries to ensure they harmonize with hers. He becomes strategic in his growth, not to impress her superficially, but to genuinely evolve alongside her. It's a rare kind of devotion that values substance over spectacle, depth over drama, and resilience over impulse. By prioritizing long-term compatibility over momentary satisfaction, he demonstrates an intelligence and emotional maturity few possess. Loving a Sigma female isn't about quick victories. It's about a sustained, quiet commitment to understanding, respecting, and evolving with her. He becomes less a man chasing love and more a man building an ecosystem where both of their complexities can coexist, flourish, and remain untamed yet harmonized. Number 6. They thrive on earning. Her acknowledgement subtly. A man in love with a Sigma female doesn't crave grand gestures or public validation. What consumes him is the subtle acknowledgement that only she can give. A fleeting nod, a rare smile, a quiet word of approval. These moments carry a weight far beyond their simplicity because they're not handed out carelessly. She doesn't distribute attention lightly, and he knows that earning it requires patience, intelligence, and nuance. Every action he takes becomes calibrated, not for show, but for impact. He notices the little things, how she values honesty over flattery, how she admires consistency over dramatic demonstrations, how she registers effort even when it's silent or invisible to the world. Each subtle recognition from her feels like a prize, but it's also a mirror reflecting his own growth. He doesn't just want her approval, he wants to deserve it, to align himself so perfectly with her standards that acknowledgement feels inevitable, natural, and earned. This need for subtle recognition changes the way he navigates his life. He becomes more attentive, not intrusive, more precise, not performative. He studies her patterns, adapts to her rhythms, and learns to act in ways that honor her autonomy while demonstrating his presence. Every step he takes is a careful negotiation between being seen and being respectful of her space. The beauty of this dynamic is its quiet intensity. There's no loud competition for attention, no desperate need to impress. The thrill comes from the tension, the gap between effort and acknowledgement, between action and response. He thrives in that space because it challenges him to grow and to operate at a higher level of emotional and intellectual sophistication. By valuing her subtle recognition above all else, he demonstrates that his love isn't transactional or superficial. It's an intricate dance of awareness, patience, and devotion, where the smallest gestures carry profound significance. In this way, he becomes a man shaped by her gravity, operating not in the realm of noise or demand, but in the quiet, powerful space where true connection is forged and maintained. Number 7. They are quietly willing to disappear for her happiness. A man in love with a Sigma female understands something few ever grasp. Love isn't about possession, and devotion doesn't demand constant presence. He knows that her freedom, her autonomy, and her happiness are paramount, and if stepping back is what ensures that, he does it without resentment. This willingness to disappear is not weakness. It's the ultimate expression of respect, maturity, and selfless devotion. He doesn't vanish to punish, manipulate, or make her chase him. He disappears quietly, deliberately, understanding that absence can sometimes be the most potent form of support. He recognizes that a Sigma female's path is her own, and interference, pressure, or clinginess would only disrupt the delicate balance she maintains. His love becomes measured not by how much he's seen or needed, but by how well he can adapt to her space and rhythm. This willingness to step away also reflects profound inner strength. He doesn't fear being forgotten, nor does he seek validation through constant presence. He is secure enough to accept that true connection transcends physical proximity or daily interactions. In fact, the act of allowing her space can deepen her respect and admiration, creating a magnetic tension that strengthens the bond rather than weakening it. It takes courage to love like this, because most men equate love with control or ownership. But a man drawn to a Sigma female learns that real love is about reverence, understanding, and restraint. He knows that she cannot and will not be caged, and any attempt to contain her spirit would destroy the very essence that drew him in. His devotion is quiet but unwavering, a steady current that supports her from a distance without imposing or suffocating. By being willing to disappear, he demonstrates that his love is not transactional, needy, or performative. It's mature, extraordinary, and almost paradoxical. The ultimate proof of attachment is sometimes letting go. In this rare form of love, he becomes someone who doesn't just care for her presence, but honors her absence, her choices, and her freedom, proving that true devotion is as much about restraint as it is about intensity. Number 8. They become invisible architects of her happiness. A man in love with a Sigma female doesn't rely on grand gestures or flashy displays of affection. Instead, he works quietly behind the scenes, subtly shaping circumstances so that her life flows more smoothly. Her ambitions meet fewer obstacles, and her energy is preserved for what truly matters to her. His love manifests not in words, but in precision, thoughtfulness, and foresight that she may never even consciously notice. He anticipates her needs before they're spoken, adjusts situations without drawing attention, and solves problems in ways that leave her life slightly easier, slightly better, without ever taking credit. It's not manipulation in a selfish sense. It's strategy, care, and devotion woven into everyday life. He notices patterns that frustrate her, small irritations or inefficiencies that sap her focus, and quietly corrects them. A broken tool, a logistical snag, a misaligned plan, he sees it and fixes it without a word, almost as if he's editing the environment around her to match her potential. This approach requires patience, insight, and incredible emotional intelligence. He studies her energy, her habits, her rhythms, and the subtle ways she interacts with the world. Then, he uses that understanding to craft circumstances that allow her to thrive without imposing himself on her autonomy. Every action is measured, deliberate, and unseen, like the gears behind a perfectly functioning clock. What makes this extraordinary is the invisibility of it. She doesn't know the full extent of the effort, and that's exactly the point. The love he gives is not performative or transactional. It's organic, selfless, and deeply intelligent. His devotion exists in the spaces between what she notices and what she doesn't, quietly supporting her growth and well-being while maintaining her independence. By becoming an invisible architect of her happiness, he elevates the entire dynamic of their relationship. He proves that love isn't always loud or demonstrative. It can be invisible, meticulous, and extraordinarily powerful, shaping her world in ways that leave it better, smoother, and richer, all without disrupting her essence or freedom. Number 9. They embrace vulnerability in secret, then shield it fiercely. A man in love with a Sigma female understands that true connection isn't built on performative vulnerability, but on strategic honesty. He doesn't spill his emotions indiscriminately. He reveals his rawest, deepest layers only when he recognizes that she is worthy of seeing them. These moments are rare, intentional, and potent, because vulnerability in his hands isn't a weakness. It's a weapon of intimacy, deployed carefully, measured, and meaningful. He allows her glimpses into the parts of himself that most people never see, the doubts he wrestles with, the fears he conceals, the ambitions he guards. But once that exposure is given, he doesn't leave himself unprotected. He shields it fiercely, ensuring that these intimate truths are treated with reverence, not casual disregard. He knows that careless words, trivial betrayals, or shallow curiosity can break what took years to cultivate. His vulnerability is sacred, shared selectively, and stored like a treasure that only she earns the right to access. This duality, openness paired with protection, shapes the way he moves through the relationship. He can be honest, raw, and intense without ever becoming fragile or dependent. His emotional depth is on display, but it comes with boundaries, a silent signal that his inner world is not a playground. This approach commands respect, subtly communicates his worth, and mirrors the independence of the Sigma female herself. She recognizes that to earn such trust is a privilege, not a given, which magnifies her own respect and fascination with him. What makes this extraordinary is how instinctive it is. He doesn't calculate every word with strategy, yet every revelation and every act of shielding reinforces his identity and integrity. Vulnerability becomes a tool, a language and a bond, simultaneously exposing and protecting, connecting and defending. In the end, he doesn't just reveal himself, he defines the parameters of intimacy. Loving a Sigma female requires courage, self-control and precision, and through embracing vulnerability in secret while guarding it fiercely, he proves that true love is not only about exposure, but about mastery over what is shared and what remains untouchable. Number 10. They compete with no one but themselves. A man in love with a Sigma female doesn't measure himself against other men. There's no need for flashy displays, social posturing, or comparisons. Those tactics are meaningless in her presence. Instead, seeing her triggers an internal shift, a quiet but relentless drive to upgrade himself on every level. He becomes a better man not to win her approval through spectacle, but because her presence exposes the gaps in his own standards and potential. This self-competition is obsessive and precise. He studies his habits, hones his skills, and sharpens his mind with a single-minded intensity, all quietly, without fanfare. Every day becomes an opportunity to refine himself, physically, intellectually, emotionally, because he knows that a Sigma female recognizes depth, mastery, and subtle competence, not superficial gestures or bravado. He pushes himself not to outshine others, but to rise to a level worthy of her attention and respect. The transformation is rarely visible to the outside world. Friends might notice a new level of focus or determination, but they rarely grasp the real motivation, a silent, private commitment to becoming extraordinary simply because she exists in his orbit. His growth is internal, obsessive, and unapologetically disciplined. He tracks his progress, not in accolades, but in the subtle alignment between who he is and the high standards her energy demands. What makes this remarkable is the purity of the effort. He competes with no one but himself, which means there's no insecurity driving his actions. There's no ego to inflate, no one to prove wrong, no social validation required. His pursuit is solitary, personal, and intense, a reflection of his understanding that loving a Sigma female isn't about domination or recognition. It's about evolving into someone capable of standing at her side as an equal, a partner, and a kindred force. Through this relentless internal competition, he doesn't just become better for her, he becomes better for himself, quietly transforming into a version of himself he might never have discovered without the challenge of loving someone as formidable, independent, and extraordinary as a Sigma female. Number 11. They crave her freedom. More than her attention. A man in love with a Sigma female understands that her essence thrives in autonomy. He doesn't see her independence as a threat, nor does he feel entitled to her time or focus. Instead, he values her freedom above all, recognizing that the very traits that make her magnetic, her self-reliance, unpredictability, and refusal to conform, are inseparable from the woman he admires. The irony is that the more she drifts, the more devoted he becomes, not because he is desperate or insecure, but because honoring her liberty deepens his respect and strengthens his commitment. He doesn't chase, pressure, or confine her. He observes, adapts, and positions himself as a quiet anchor, a presence she can trust without feeling restrained. He understands that real connection doesn't require constant visibility or attention. It's cultivated in the space between her choices and his understanding. Her moments of distance don't trigger panic. They invite reflection, patience, and a deeper appreciation of her complexity. This devotion to her freedom changes the way he expresses love. Instead of attempting to monopolize her time or dictate her decisions, he invests in supporting her growth, solving problems subtly, and maintaining his own independence so that he remains whole without demanding her energy. His commitment becomes less about possession and more about alignment, less about being seen and more about being worthy. The extraordinary part of this dynamic is the quiet magnetism it creates. By valuing her autonomy over his own desire for attention, he becomes irresistible in a way that ego-driven pursuit never achieves. She senses the absence of neediness, the presence of respect, and the unspoken understanding that she can move freely without fear of losing him. In essence, he thrives in a paradox. The more she exercises her independence, the stronger their bond grows. Loving a Sigma female is not about restricting her. It's about embracing her liberty, supporting her from a distance, and demonstrating that true devotion is measured not by proximity, but by the respect and admiration that flourish in the space she controls. Number 12. They become masters of reading energy over words. A man in love with a Sigma female learns quickly that words are often secondary to the currents of energy she radiates. He doesn't need explanations, long conversations, or declarations to know what she feels or thinks. Small shifts, slight changes in her posture, a flicker in her gaze, the rhythm of her breathing, become as clear to him as spoken language. He decodes her mood, intentions, and even unspoken desires instinctively, often before she realizes them herself. This skill isn't developed overnight. It grows from constant observation, patience, and genuine attention. He studies her reactions, not in a manipulative way, but as a natural adaptation to someone whose mind and emotions operate on a frequency few can reach. He notices how she tenses when frustrated, how her eyes brighten when excited, or how a subtle change in her tone signals curiosity or caution. These small details guide his actions, responses, and decisions, allowing him to synchronize with her on an almost imperceptible level. What makes this mastery extraordinary is its unconscious efficiency. He doesn't need her to articulate her feelings because he understands the language of her energy. It's an intuitive, almost telepathic attunement that gives him a rare edge. He can comfort, support, or engage her at the exact level she needs without intruding or overwhelming. In essence, he becomes a mirror to her inner state, responding in ways that feel effortless yet profoundly accurate. This ability also fosters trust. She senses that he perceives her fully, beyond words, and that awareness creates a subtle but powerful bond. It allows her to feel seen and understood without explanation, which is the kind of recognition few experience. By mastering the reading of energy over words, he demonstrates a level of attentiveness, emotional intelligence, and patience that sets him apart. Loving a Sigma female requires him to move in the spaces between the spoken and the unspoken, interpreting the invisible currents she radiates, and responding with precision, care, and profound understanding. In doing so, he becomes attuned to the essence of who she is, not just the image she presents to the world. Conclusion. Loving a Sigma female is nothing like ordinary love. It's a journey into complexity, patience, and quiet transformation. Every man who falls for her is challenged in ways few others will ever experience, pushed to evolve, to sharpen, and to grow in both mind and spirit. He becomes a student of her energy, a silent architect of her happiness, and a guardian of her freedom, learning to operate not through dominance or expectation, but through understanding, reverence, and meticulous attention. This love is intense, subtle, and extraordinary. It's a constant dance between presence and restraint, intimacy and distance, vulnerability and strength. A Sigma female doesn't tolerate superficiality, impatience, or insecurity, and a man who truly loves her learns to rise to her level, not for applause, but because the gravity of her presence demands it. Every step he takes, every adjustment he makes, every quiet act of devotion is a testament to his capacity to love in a way that is rare, disciplined, and profound. By embracing discomfort, reading the unspoken, respecting her autonomy, and guarding his inner world, he evolves into a version of himself he may never have discovered without her influence. This isn't love that seeks control. It's love that honors freedom, elevates character, and transforms ordinary existence into something extraordinary. It's a love that doesn't shout, doesn't chase, and doesn't depend. It simply exists, quietly, powerfully, and with unwavering devotion. So, if you've been captivated by the enigmatic, magnetic pull of the Sigma female and the extraordinary ways men respond when they fall for her, make sure to keep this energy alive. Subscribe to the channel to dive even deeper into the rarest dynamics of human connection. Comment below to share your thoughts or experiences, and don't forget to share this with anyone who needs to understand the astonishing intensity of loving a Sigma female. This is not just a story of love, it's a blueprint for understanding power, mystery, and devotion at the highest level.